My name is Giancarlo Esposito.
Perfect, thank you.
So can you tell us about the character you're playing?
Yeah, what show am I doing? Creepshow. I play a doctor in the town. This show is set in sort of this nebulous town, and you meet a couple of characters in the beginning. Of course, we're meeting them in a circumstance that is traumatic. So I play a doctor who has been in this town forever, who's retired, who's a buddy of the sheriff, who then has to go out on basically a house call, and then everything gets disturbed because nothing is what it seems in this particular show. So a fun role to do in a very, very interesting construct that was put together by Greg Nicotero and, of course, Stephen King.
What do you think it is that draws fans to horror so much? There is such
Well, look, when Greg called me to do this, I was like, I've never done this genre. I know what draws me to horror, so I think it might be the same for many fans. There's an energy about fear and fright that changes your consciousness. So whether you're in a good or a bad mood, you become immediately present because it puts you in sort of a flight or fight mode if you weren't in a movie. So you realize you're going to see something, but then the excitement of something spontaneous happening that you don't expect is why people, I think, are really drawn to horror.
You're a fan of the original Creepshow movies. Have you seen them before?
I loved George Romero. I was a fan of the original movie. I was really excited to hear that we had a cast member who was in the original film in Adrienne Barbeau, and even more excited that Stephen King wrote the novella for Hours. And so then I had to go back and do my research and find out, well, what was the connection between Stephen King and George Romero? And they were tight from a long time ago, and worked together seamlessly, and had always wanted to work together. So now it really puts in my consciousness the understanding of the roots of Stephen King. He is such a really prolific and wonderful writer. I've worked with him in a film called Maximum Overdrive years ago, the only film he ever directed. He acquitted himself beautifully. I had a small part in it, and I'll never forget, I was at the pinball machine, and he wanted me to shake so hard, and I just was like, how can I do this to make this guy happy? It's interesting when you blend creative arts with really incredible writing. Normally, novelists don't make great screenplay writers. You know what I mean? Many times. Yeah. And Stephen King has broken that mold. But it's his intellect that has always intrigued me. He is so very smart about so many things. Not only his own craft, but he has an opinion about the world and politics, and so I really respect him as a human being. And so I was just so excited when Greg called me and said, let's go do this. And I said yes immediately, because I wanted to explore that. I had no idea what I was getting into, because the feeling on a set, I would imagine, on The Walking Dead is one thing, and I know Greg has directed so many of those so eloquently and brilliantly, but what I do in the show I'm on, Better Call Saul, and another show I'm working on in New York called Godfather of Harlem, we do it in a different way. So I was enthused when I realized, okay, we have to, as actors, fill in some blanks, really connect to what we've been given as to what our character is, because it's an anthology show. So you're given, it's written well, but there's room to play. And I realized when we were shooting it, it felt the same way as it was sort of put together. It leaves you room. So then I went, oh, wait a minute, dude. Let's go back to your sense of what guerrilla filmmaking is. You're going to grab this shot. So every moment you have to be present. Every moment you have to be in a certain reality to make it realistic. I had so much fun. Partly, the reason was Tobin Bell. Tobin came down, and when you get another really strong and really good actor who's not just there to do their 5-day guest spot stint and pick up, 2 quarters, because this is not a really big budget show, you got to be there for other reasons, and that's to either you love the genre, you love what you do. So Tobin and I realized immediately what was missing was our relationship, and that we had to create that. So, I was joking with my daughters today that Tobin and I were like face to face every single day, talking about scenes, rewriting stuff that we knew we weren't going to say. We rewrote it just because we wanted to talk that particular dialogue out to inform what we had to do without words. And I basically said to my girls, and then we held hands for, we would walk up and down the street holding hands, because these guys were buddies. The sheriff and the doc are buddies. They finish each other's sentences. They rib each other. They joke with each other. And I didn't know Tobin, and so in 24 hours, we got to know each other really, really well, because we wanted to create these characters and bring them to life in a real way.
Have you pulled, when you're preparing for this role, did you look at any kind of classic horror influences in order to pull from, or did you just kind of go off the cuff?
I went off the cuff and I winged it. I had to start thinking about the early George Romero film. I had to start thinking about the first Night of the Living Dead. I had to start thinking about, because there's variables here. So I'm telling you all about my relationship with Tobin Bell, but then I had to have a relationship with the monster. That's a whole other thing. This thing, if I can say it, shooting this scared the shit out of me. Because it was all good until I saw the monster. And then I was like, literally my stomach did a flip-flop. This was so freaking gross. And I'm like, I play badass characters, So for me to get a little rattled, all that you see on the screen when you see it is real. Nicotera creates this world, and so if you're an insecure actor walking into that situation, and all of us are a little insecure. Partly in my brain is, this is all about the monster. Fuck the monster. This is all about the monster. It's not about my work. It's not about my acting. And I realized, wait, the monster represents the whole reason we're here. This is the unexpected that happens. And so we're all connected. And the more reaction I have to this incredibly gross thing I'm looking at, who's about to eat me, maybe, the more it's going to sell for the audience. So we had a really beautiful setup, and it reminded me that, sometimes when things are so pat and they go a certain way, then it all looks very pat and cookie cutter. On this, Greg is like, come over here, we're going to shoot this. Come over here, we're going to shoot this now. We're going to do it. Any questions? We ask questions. We talk about it. Blah, blah, blah. It's just a different urgency. It's informed by a different feeling. So I didn't go back and look at many older movies and older creepy kind of shows, because I felt like, partly for me as an actor, is I don't want to look at anything that's going to influence my performance. I want to try to, if I can really find that emotion, I want to find it on my own and give it, and have it be different than anything I've ever done before. And again, I mention and reiterate, I've never done a show like this. So really kind of fun. Put you in a vulnerable position, especially when you're looking at a huge, nasty, scary thing that I can't even tell you what it really is. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of...
I don't have your acting chops, but I kind of assume that, yes, I get the general gist of it.
Yeah, you let it flow over you and you kind of react to what's real.
Sometimes horror can become a metaphor of what's going on, what's going wrong in our society. Do you think that Creepshow will follow this path?
Well, I think there is a strong possibility. Because it's an anthology show, and we have different stories each time, and after all, what are we here for? I would imagine, working with Greg and the strong writers on this show and Shudder, that it's going to have some reference to what's happening in the world now. I mean, after all, we're all living in this world going, huh? I won't say all, but some of us, right? Because we have to respect everyone's agenda and what they feel and how they feel the country should be run. But it's not, for me, it's not even about that. For me, it's the bigger metaphor is that, and I believe it all has to somehow fail to be renewed. We're in a very disparate place here, and it's not just because of the dude who's in the Oval Office. It's because of our big corporations who are complicit and who have kept that kind of bubble alive. This is the time for the people to stand up. That's all I can say. Like, gracefully stand up, because this is the time to take it back. There's no doubt about it. And only we can do that. It's not going to be anyone who has an agenda. And it may not even be any of our contenders who are coming up, because if you look at all of their records, they all have some crap in their past. They all have they traded on something. lobbyists. You don't get me going, man. That's the legal word for illegal. Like, we're gonna lobby. You know, look, if you tell me you're gonna give me this and give me that and the other, I'm gonna run for president. I want your support. I got it. I'm in. Now I gotta pay you all back. It's all bullshit. It's not about the people. You know, I'm going to pay you back because I want to start my hotel in your country. It's all this. It's gone too far. It's got to stop. And I think there's a way to stop it. I think there's a way, but we have to let our voices be heard. So I hope the Creepshow does represent sort of the caving in of our society, metaphorically, before it happens, so that we can rebuild.
So are you going to join in on the raid on Area 51 when everyone storms?
Hell yeah! Are you kidding me? I mean, they got, 3 stories there and underground, and it's only for the elite, and they're all going to live forever. You know, who cares? You know? I'll storm it and get them all out of there, and we'll put some people in there to save them, and we'll move on.
Get the movement growing. Keep the momentum
I think
going.
we have to. I don't think we have a choice.
Have fun. Let's do it.
Yeah, why not? You know?
It'll be a party.
Because what happens if we don't? You know what happens? Apathy happens, and then we start switching sides. Then we go, yeah, you know what? After a while, you know, he's all right. He said that. Yeah, I'll go back to your own fucking country. Like, that's okay. That's not okay with me. I'm from Italy. I'm not from America. I'm totally patriotic, totally American, born in Copenhagen.
He's doing much better right
They
now.
aren't either.
I'm Italian too, so.
Right, but how do you say that to human beings who have a right to be here and who are affected by all of the decisions that you make? You know, look, I looked at the news. I was running my 6 miles this morning, and there was a man from Spain he was deported. They were in New York and Long Island, Spain or South America somewhere, Mexico maybe. And because of all of the laws that have been passed recently, he couldn't get back in to be with his 13-year-old daughter. She hung herself. She didn't succeed. She's on life support. He's in another country. They've allowed him, wonderful, to come back and say goodbye and take her off life support. But this is all because of what has happened in our country in the last 2 years. 13-year-old girl killing herself because the love of her life, her father, could not get back here to be with her. He's allowed back in to say goodbye to her. But the damage has been done. You know, so we've represented a country where it's the land of the free, the home of the brave, everyone's welcome, and now you're not. Sorry, you've been here 20 years? No more. Bye. That's absurd. So, I don't know. We have to think of doing something else here.
Something that is kind of like inherently radical, if we're talking about like representation and representing different. The Creepshow class is really, really diverse, and it has a lot of like different actors of color and stuff like that. And horror has kind of generally been wrongly seen as a white medium, because there's loads of amazing black horror and horror from all over the world. But was that something kind of like that feels good to be in this kind of divisive world where you have a racist president and stuff? Does it feel good to be in a show that's kind of bucking those trends?
Oh, there's no doubt. It always feels good because, you know, art is it monitors where we're at in our world and where we're at in ourselves. And I feel like Greg did a great job putting this cast together from all over the world. And that's a representation of America right now. I mean, like I go, don't you guys get it? This is not a white society anymore. You know, we're people from all over the world who are enjoying our freedom and contributing to this American culture. So it's great to be a part of a cast that's so diverse and so multicultural, because, you know, in the end, we have humanity, and people from every different culture enrich our humanity, not just our society, but the depth of who we are. And that, to me, is so very important in continuing our world with an inclusive feeling.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you. Pleasure.